welcome here. My name is Marissa and I am the program director at Studio Central, Urban Arts Center in sunny Central Park, Winnipeg. And today I would like to share with you my knowledge on blending pastels. All the knowledge I have with pastels is self-taught and what works for me. I'm sure there are plenty other of different ways that you can do this. However, this is what I found works for me, as well as I don't know, just playing around with it and seeing what comes out. That's kind of my style with pastels. I'm going to show you two different types today. We're going to use both the oil and we're going to use both the chalk, and we will do some exercises of maybe some different materials you could use to blend. Like, for example, I'm not sure if you do have one on hand, but I have one of these. These are called a blending stump, which some people recommend online to use to blend pastels. I haven't tried, so we're gonna do it together. But the one thing I probably won't like about this is that, you know, it's gonna get dirty over time, and then how do I clean it? That's one option. Second, I have an art sponge here. This could be used like a makeup sponge or anything like that. It's a little bit denser, and this is actually used for pan pastels, which I have a few of, but today we are just using the good old-fashioned oil pastel here. And then we also have the chalk pastel. So we're gonna go over both, like I said, with you. And oh, another material you might need, you probably would have this on hand, a Kleenex. Not to blow your nose, but if you do need to, you can for sure, and then clean your hands after. But a Kleenex is a really great, I think, substitute for one of these fancy drawing utensils. But I also feel like it will be better because you don't have to buy a new one. It's just a piece of Kleenex and we can get more over time. So pastels are really great because, you know, it's not a wet medium, so you can kind of bring it with you wherever you go. They are a little bit messier than, say, if you were to use something like pencil or pencil crayons, but they're still nice. So I enjoy them. They're really fun to use if I want to just express myself with a bunch of color on the paper at once. My style of using pastels, I never really have like a plan of what I want to draw in the end. I know there's wonderful artists out there who do. James is one of them. Watch his videos too. But yeah, I just kind of go for it. I like using them because, again, you can get a lot of pigment onto the paper at once. One of my favorite parts for it. So, but all you need to follow along if you want to is some paper and your pastels, whatever one you're choosing. I also like having like a scrap paper off to the side, and especially if we are blending with our pastels, if you want something to go off onto the side and like clean it as you're using. So without further ado, we're gonna flip the camera around and I will show you my knowledge of blending pastels. So oil pastels are wonderful. They're kind of resemble a little more than like a crayon or something, if you've ever used those growing up. But these are nice because, you know, if you touch it right away, you're not going to get that dirty because they're packed in with like a lot of oil. So they do take quite a long time to dry. Some people even think that, oh, they never dry because your paper is always going to look a little waxy and oily afterwards. But that's one of the main differences between the oil pastels and the chalk pastel, is that chalk is, you know what, gonna be like sidewalk chalk. It can break apart and powder onto your paper, and that's kind of a benefit for mixing and blending with them. But pastels, on the other hand, that are oil, they have a little bit of a different composition. So what I like to do, even before I start doing anything. I like to let myself get a little loose, get used to the feeling of the pastel, and just draw around and have some fun. See how the pastel reacts to the paper, see what colors, you know, come out, because sometimes the color doesn't look the same as the paper, but I feel like pastel is one of those things that it does kind of look similar to. So ignore what I just said. But playing around with it, trying colors out, and letting your hand get loose. So there we go, we got some lines here. If we are wanting to say blend in some colors, and I can just use these lines here, let's actually focus right on this area here where we have this nice blue. And well, you know what? Blue and yellow make green, so why don't we add some yellow to this? And then we'll see the beautiful color that comes out. Some type of green, of course. But I have kind of like a burnt orchard color here. And you'll notice actually that there is already some color on here because I was using this to blend before. So what I do with this scrap paper I have beside me is I will take it and just rub the color off. So I'm not bringing in any unwanted color to this mixture here. But now that I have this, why don't we zoom in a moment? There we are. Now that I have this yellow all clean, we're going to mix it with the blue. And the easiest way to do that is really just coloring over top and coloring in layers. So it's kind of going to be very similar. I'm going to do this too so you can see the difference of what the color is on its own and then mix with the blue. But using the coloring in layers method is going to be quite similar with both pastels, both types of pastels. You know, I can color a little bit with the yellow, and then I can go ahead and color a little bit more with the blue and really just kind of build up this color. But you can see the yellow I used wasn't too vibrant, so it's kind of like a brownish green that we have mixing in here. But you get the idea. There's the blue on its own, there's the yellow on its own, there's that color together. Now that's one way to blend with your pastels. I prefer to actually work light to dark, which a lot of artists will say that's the best way to do it. So say having like a light color going on, and then if we want to get some of this red in here, you can take your red and just add some flicks of color and then go back in with that yellow and color over top of it, and you're gonna see kind of like this pinky rose color come out of it. And that's another way you can be blending these pastels. So it's kind of nice because you can actually mix the color on the paper. So you see that I'm cutting this really pretty yellow and pink color here. But you can mix it directly on the paper. You can see a new color coming from what you had in your hands. So that's that kind of working and layering and pushing hard and getting that pigment on here is a little bit of a different method than how we just, you know, colored and that was all. This is really getting that blending going. So what you could do with this type of blending, if we were to use, say, a different sheet of paper and make it larger, I could start off with, like, say, a nice white and go from there, add in the white color, and then add on some color on top, and then add the white again, and it will just become this like beautiful wispy clouds color. I'll show you, I'll demonstrate it right at the top of my page here, but so that's really how we're getting this like nice blended mixing color here, is really just going and layering in the color on its own. And as I'm mixing, you can see that this yellow is really picking up a lot of that peach color that we're making. So I'm gonna take my scrap paper over here, just clean it as best I can. And we're good to go again. So, and that's when I add in again. So this is one method of using the color, is just kind of going color and layering color on color as we go. What I was saying earlier with that white and adding the color is we're going to get a new sheet here, and I'm going to take a white pastel, and again, you can tell I've mixed here before, so there's a little bit of color on here, but I'm going to clean this off. And I really enjoy using the white pastel. I mean, you can use different colored paper too, of course, but I really enjoy using this white pastel for the fact to mix it and use it as mixing. So what I've done in the past is I've created kind of like a primer underneath here, and I've added the white, and you can see, of course, that there's still some color kind of bleeding off of it, but added a base of the white, and that's going to help kind of blend and mix in my colors a little bit. And now I want to do like a really pinky, like light pink color added in, kind of pinky peach color. And then I just loved that blue. Let's bring that blue back in. So we're going to do kind of like a cotton candy color here. So I'm going to take this blue and just do some lines here because I want this to be quite wispy and fun. I'm going to take my pink and do more lines. Something in the middle too, because then they can get the two colors together. And now that I have just that done, we're going to go back in with my white and we're going to blend all those together. So I'll take my white, again we're using it just like a blender here, and we'll start adding color on top. And I'm using like kind of like a circular motion, as in not to like to kind of leave the pigment where I chose it to be, and just kind of blend it inward versus like fully dragging color across here. But you're really seeing that there's this like very soft color kind of mixed through. We got this pretty blue. Wonder what the blue and pink is going to look like here. But I like sort of rubbing and blending it in so you don't see any of the past lines. And I can maybe even add like a little bit more white around the side. But it's a very sort of simple and honestly soothing way to blend in your colors. And you of course don't have to use a white. You can use other color, like a lighter color to do this method. I feel like the white's always going to leave it with a little bit of like pastel and rainbow color through here. But you could always do like say a cream or a peach or a gray even, and make it like a little bit more moody of a feel. But that is essentially the blending of our two colors with using white as a blending tool. So you're really just using the pastels as a tool itself. I've used this method before to make like very pretty clouds and sky. You can use it for a number of things. And of course, again, you can always go back in if you want a little bit more pink up here. Go back in, add some lines of pink. Then again, go back in with your white and you can blend away. So it kind of created like a soft purple in the middle here, but really again, like a cotton candy color. That's what I always think of pink and blue together. It's like a cotton candy color. But there we are. So we have a very lovely pink and blue. So now that is blending, we have this beautiful shadow on here, but that is blending the oil pastels. So that was that one technique, using white down first, adding some color on top, and then putting white on again. And it really just creates this like beautiful marbling color. So now what we are going to do is we are going to try this whole technique out, but using chalk pastels. And I think I know what's making this shadow. Oh, I was right. There we go. No more shadows. Okay, so let's now do chalk pastel. Now chalk pastel is different. It's a different makeup than the oils, where it kind of gives you more of like a powdery color after the fact. So one thing that I've done before, and I can show you this technique, you do need an extra item, something you can scratch with. Myself, I have just an X-Acto blade that I've used before. So let's again try this out, starting off just getting the feel for the medium. So I'm going to take this very pretty green, and you can even see as soon as I grab it, there's color on my hands. We're going to get a little messy, and that's okay. You can always wear gloves if you would like, but it's not necessary, of course. This is art. This is fun. You can get a little into it. Trying out the medium, again, doing some lines and squiggles. I really like a certain way you can use it by taking it and going straight across and pushing. And you get this like beautiful bright color right away. And then if your pastels are more of like a square shape, you can use the corner of it to make these lines. So it's quite an interesting medium for sure. And again, getting some color, contrasting colors. It's always just really fun to do. Let's use one more color on here. Why not purple? Let's go crazy. You can do like fun twists around. I can like make a circle. Hey, that's cool. Maybe a circle down here. There we go. So just playing around with the pastels, getting used to them. And now you will notice that we did that just once. I have purple fingers. So another great use for the Kleenex is you can wipe your fingers off to the side. I normally recommend, like, say, having like a wet napkin, baby wipes, whatever you call them, off to the side, because that's another great way to just be able to clean your fingers. Because again, this type of blending and drawing will get a little bit messy. So different types of blending with chalk pastels. What colors should we blend together? What about like a nice blue with purple? Oh, that would be lovely. I'm gonna take this light blue, and this one just for fun, and then like this nice purple. So it's kind of like a little gradient going on here. So one technique, of course, you can do is just like that first time when we did the oil pastels, where you just take the color and you color it on the paper. I'm gonna do like a very light gradient here. I guess I could have just done 2 colors. But you go in using the colors one at a time, light hand, and you blend them this way. So you can really see like things kind of still look like it's 1 or 3 together, I guess, if we can blend it a little bit nicer here. But there you are. And again, chalk pastels of the two, I feel like are a little messier. So my hand's a little dirty. And once I lift up this paper, of course it's going to get powder everywhere. But that's one technique. We just took the 3 colors we wanted to blend. If you'd like to just do 2 as well, you can do that. And I used the light hand, colored the light blue, colored the medium blue, colored the purple, and then kept going in with layers, grabbing the colors and going back in. And then that's one way. Another way you can blend is gonna be a little messy, but it's with your fingers. So we're gonna do the same sort of scale of colors where I'm just going to add in the purple, add in the blue, and add in the light blue. We see here, nice difference of colors. But now what you do is you take your hand and one of your fingers and you can actually just rub in the colors together. I actually really enjoy this. I feel like it gets me very involved with the art, very in tune with it. Some people don't like the feel of the pastel on their fingers, and that's okay. Otherwise, you can actually, there's oil in your skin, so you can add a little bit of oil down on the paper. So it's not the best for like long-lasting archival work. That is one thing I will note. And then of course you always have to go in and clean your fingers. So personally, I do this one the most. But there's positives and negatives, I guess, to it. But I do like that you can really just like, it pushes the color all throughout there, it gets everything in really nicely. Next, I guess let's do that one using the blending stomp, which is the first time I've done this. I've never actually used the blending stomp before to blend the color. I imagine it would be similar to my finger, but we will see. So I'm kind of overlapping the color a little bit when I go in, so it kind of helps it blend already. But we have this up here. And just for the sake of clarity, let's zoom in a tiny bit. Okay, I'm going to take this blending stomp. Again, you can use this or you can use a Kleenex. Because again, you're going to have multiple blending stomps if you want to do multiple colors. And they are a little bit tricky to clean. I mean, hey, if you know how to clean these well, give me a shout. Maybe I'll use this more, because you can really see it doesn't pick up as much color as my finger did. And it really actually can push around the color and move it. So I get a really nice and soft blend. Now I'm just doing it in one direction, going kind of at a diagonal with it. I don't know if you can see on camera, but the sun beam is so strong that I can kind of actually see like clouds of dust coming off of here, which is pretty crazy. So that's with the blending stomp. And I'm not putting too much pressure on here. You know, I don't want to sort of damage my paper as I'm going. And I wonder if I can do the same trick where I wipe off this, or if this is now forever my pastel blending tool. We don't know. Okay, next type of blending we're gonna do, it's gonna be very similar to that one we just did, but it is going to be with a Kleenex. So very similar to this one, but it's kind of more of like a budget friendly, that you don't need to go out and purchase 10 blending tools. So again, going in with the color. It's helpful that we're using the same color for each type of blending. You know the real difference. So what we're gonna do is we're going to take our Kleenex, and what I like to do is kind of wrap it around a finger and then twist it. So in a way, we're kind of creating that like hard sort of cotton spike that is used to do the blending. So again, it works. It works like the blending tool we just used, but it might be a little bit different. So let's give it a try. This is gonna save your fingers too. And you can always go in, add more color, add more pigment, put it in a different area. But this actually works very well. I think it actually even works more to my liking than that blending tool we just used. Maybe it's just because I know I don't have to clean it afterwards. Or I'm not using like a precious art supplies and I can get many more of these. But that actually blended very quick. Nice, that was very quick. Very nice. Okay, now we do also have this sponge, which I'll let you try on your own. If you have one of these handy, go for it. Let me know how it works out for you. But I would like to show you one of my favorite techniques of blending. And this one, again, you'll need something to scrape your pastels with. I'm going to be using an X-Acto blade. You can use whatever you do have handy, like a, I don't know, I really don't know what you could use. Anything that has like a scissor, you can open up a scissor and kind of scrape that. Anything you can clean easily, of course. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a white. So this is the first time we're actually using white to do any of these blendings. And this is going to be very similar to that time a little while back when we were blending the pink and the blue of the oil pastel. We're going to use white as our base. And I'm just going to use it kind of like to prime my paper. So again, just doing a basic white down here. Perfect. So I think you can see that on camera, which is quite good. And now, this is where the fun part comes. Not like any of this wasn't fun already, but we're going to take our pastel, and then you're going to take your blade or scissor or whatever you are having handy, and you're going to pick a side or a corner. Don't do it all over the place, of course. That way you're able to have those like sharp edges for doing detail work later on. But you can see I already have used this part a bit. So we're going to take some shavings very lightly from each. And we're gonna drop those onto the area that we just used. And we're gonna blend. So what I'm doing actually is the lighter color. I'm actually adding it all throughout, just so maybe we can get a little bit more depth of color. And when I've done this in the past, I've actually used a border of tape around it. I just feel like after the fact, it creates a really pretty, like, solid shape or square. But I figured that just because I'm showing you a demonstration of how I blend my pastels, I figured we didn't need it for this time. But so what we're gonna do now, this is where our fingers come into play. Again, using your fingers, of course, adds a little bit of oil to the work. I find that in this instance, it actually helps blend it a little bit nicer. But you want to make sure your fingers are relatively clean. So if you're working here, you could go clean your hands, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to do it right here. So let's start at the bottom where the lighter color is, and just start moving in slow circles and patting into the pigment where it is, because we want to create that gradient again. So once you start getting your other finger covered in, like, say, a darker color, you want to use a different one when going back down to the lighter area, because you want it to blend nicely. You want to give the idea that there's a gradient going on. And just so you can keep, like, the colors a little bit separate. So now that I've used sort of my middle finger for the purple area, when I go back down to the blue here, even the middle blue, I'm going to use a different finger. Just so again, I can kind of really keep the colors separate. And how I like to do this is I like to do it kind of in sections again, where I'll do the one color and then I'll go in with another color and then blend it. And then depending on how the colors are, I really like a smooth transition. So like right now, I might take a step back and look at it and say, I need more purple right at the top. So take the purple again and add in more dark. And just for the sake of this, we're gonna wipe my fingers down a little bit. And now I'm gonna take my finger and just rub it in there. But because we've looked at different sort of blending techniques, you could definitely bring in the blending stomp to this. You could bring in the Kleenex to this. There's lots of things you could do to elevate kind of your blending technique with this. You don't have to use your finger, of course, but that's just what I'm used to. We got a really dark purple up here. Now, this purple's coming down quite a lot. I want to kind of have the blue push back at it. So I'm gonna take my blue and just a little bit, because we still wanna make sure that this bottom is quite light. And once I get it blended in, I'm actually going to sort of blend it and do an upwards motion. Sort of get this color going in here, and then kind of pull the color down. And then something you can always do as well to lighten up color, of course. We added white at the beginning for that primer, but we can always go in and add more white too. So I think let's add some white at the bottom, just to really emphasize this lightness down here. What finger is clean? Maybe my thumb? This is a weird technique to use my thumb. Now that we have, you can see there's like some powder up at the front here. I like to just shake off my paper, but don't do that unless you have an area to shake it off too, of course. So another reason why having that scrap paper off to the side is handy is we can take it. I like kind of opening it up or just folding it after the fact, but taking it and then taking our paper and just kind of giving it a nice shake. Getting all that color down. Okay, well, there you can see the difference of all these blending techniques we did. Which one do you like? There's so many to choose from. I really enjoy how this, you know, and maybe it's just that I took a little bit more time on this one, but I really enjoy like that nice rich gradient you get going off there. Of course, this is the one that we use the blade for to move. I like also, you know, the texture of the paper you can see through this piece. This one is nice because I liked the process of it as well. Just, you know, going in different layering with the colors, and then just blending it with your fingers. It was like I was in the process. I was in with that. And then these two at the top. This was using that blending tool we had, the blending stomp, which is just tied up cotton, really. And this was using a Kleenex, which I think I'm gonna try that more often, just because there is so much versatility with it. But with that note, flip us around. I'll flip us around that way. Okay, well, that is the end of my demonstration for you. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe you learned something, maybe you just got a refresher, or maybe you could teach me a thing. I would love to hear it. Enjoy the rest of your day. be creative, and soak up the sunshine. See you later.